If you're looking for a new way to support Side Mission, check out Dubby.gg, an energy supplement company trying to make a difference. Make sure to use code SIDEMISSION for 15% off your order. Thank you, Dubby, for sponsoring this episode, and we hope you enjoy.
Welcome into the newest episode of Side Mission. I, like always, am your host, Rusty Ellis, joined by the boys, Matt Beck, Kyle Lynch. And today, I made a promise, fellas. I made a promise. This was a few episodes ago when we talked about, I think this was Twisted Metal 7. And I made the promise we're going to get all these episodes out by fucking Christmas. And by God, we're going to do so because today we're combining this episode into episodes 9 and episode 10. If you're not happy about that, go fuck yourself. I really don't care. Just kidding. Well, I'm not kidding 100%. I'm kidding about the go fuck yourself part. But we are combining episodes 9 and 10 into one episode just because, to be honest, we could do an episode on just episode 9, but it would probably be like a 12-minute episode, and there's not exactly a ton to talk about from that episode, at least in my opinion, there's not. Kyle, I think you said you felt the same when we talked about it earlier. So we are going to be talking about episode 9 and episode 10, the season finale. And we say season, not series, because it has been confirmed there is going to be a season 2. We're excited for that. Because, fellas, episode 9 and episode 10, a pretty strong finish to season 1. So we'll start with episode 9. And Kyle, episode 9, as we just talked about, not really a ton that happens. But what does happen is good character development stuff. There's a little bit of, I guess, a nod to the games with a certain car that gets brought into, I believe it's a nod to the game, with a car that is worked on and brought into the fold. But it all starts, I believe we started with Quiet shortly after the events of episode 8, where, the Holy Men, they snuck in to go infiltrate the Holy Men and to get Evelyn back. Evelyn ends up blowing up. John Doe and Quiet have a falling out where she ends up leaving. She's tired of him not treating her like a partner. And she, they end up kind of separated. They reunite very, very quickly at the beginning of this episode, Kyle. Very quickly. We see the return of the convoy. And this is where we see Quiet is still very pissed off with John Doe.
Yeah, this episode, I think, it was a lot of, that character development coming full circle. Like, really, really showing here. Especially, like, in the beginning where we see that part with Sweet Tooth and Stu where, they took Mike hostage with them because they left him alive in episode 7. And they, took him with them. And so Sweet Tooth, like, goes off to do something. And, Mike and Stu are kind of talking. And, Mike's telling him, he's like, man, I don't think you're safe with him. He's trying to kind of coerce him into, setting him free and going with him. And I think that's kind of where you start seeing Stu kind of realize, hey, I just hopped in this ice cream truck with this insane guy dressed like a clown who, used to kill anybody who would come to Las Vegas. It's very interesting how he kind of has that sudden realization, and then when Sweet Tooth comes back, he's like, hey, what you guys talking about? He's like, oh shit, I'm about to piss myself because I just realized where I'm at. But yeah, and then when Quiet comes in, I think that it's very interesting to see, now that we are at the end of the series, how much her relationship with John Doe has grown. They really had some bitter moments in, these early episodes towards each other. They were not friends. And to see them kind of grow into this, love-hate relationship, because right now, after fucking in the ball pit, they decided to split.
Yeah, bring that memory back up. That's right.
They decided to split, and, because John Doe decided to be selfish and stay with his car that ended up getting blown up in the last episode. But you could tell that she's missing him, that she's feeling a little bit alone. And so was he, especially at the end of that episode. He felt, you could see the regret on his face that, like, why did I do this? Why did I leave her like that?
Yeah, I'm with you on that 100% there. I think that's the character development. You can kind of sense the entire episode that she does want to forgive him, But we see that at a certain point, and she mentions it several times in episode 8, that she's kind of gotten frustrated with him over how he's treated her since they've really started working together, and that he's she's risked her life with the whole ordeal with the holy men to help break him out of their cage they had him in, and how he's still risking his life for a car that she just doesn't understand the relationship between him and Evelyn exactly. That's really fucking weird that I said understanding the relationship between him and a car, something off of My Strange Addiction, straight off of that show My Strange Addiction. But it's really interesting that you can see the whole time she wants to forgive him, but it's really hard. And she's kind of reached her boiling point with it. And so, Matt, we see that kind of throughout this entire episode that they bit by bit they start to get a little bit closer to that relationship they had before. And finally, he helps fix something in the glove box when they're working on the replacement for Evelyn. And that's kind of the point where they're able to say, okay, we're able to get back to normal. It is what it is. And that's where you see their relationship kind of return to some semblance of normality.
Yeah, I actually really like the fact that the progression of, reigniting was a little bit very natural. It wasn't instantly, oh, he came back, she's pissed and she is not afraid to show it. I mean, she even, what was it? She threw at him, uh, was it like a screwdriver or something? But she threw that
Something like
heavy
that,
object
yeah.
at him. And like, that's how it is in real life. I mean, I'm not saying go throw something at somebody because, you got into a squabble, but like, um, it was like I said, it didn't feel like it was a forced forgiveness either because it actually worked its way through a good portion of the episode, and I think that's why it worked really well because again, like I said, it wasn't forced, and it felt like very natural progression when it comes to especially these two people who've been through so much together, and I mean. I also have to think that Quiet kind of starts to understand just a little bit there. It's not very subtle, but I kind of think it's there where Eleven's very special to him, or 11. I'm so sorry.
Right, you're
Evelyn
good.
was very special to him. I got Stranger Things on the mind, apparently.
We will not
But
be
Evelyn
reviewing
was very
that show.
special to him. Evelyn was very special to him, and I think she kind of understood at the same time. She was hoping to see him make, some progress when it comes to like, choosing her over Evelyn. And I think she definitely took that a little harshly. But I mean, in the end, like I said before, they definitely worked it out, and it led off to one of the greatest ending of an episode I've seen all season.
Yeah, I liked Matt. I liked a lot of that. I liked that it felt very natural to what it would be like in real life to have to forgive somebody. I'm a big fan of that. I like that again. It seems weird that like this is the show that's given us some real depictions of what stuff would look like in real life. In terms of trusting people in the apocalypse, in terms of forgiving somebody who's wronged you as many times as Quiet feels John Doe has not really necessarily wronged her, even maybe kind of sold her short or has not really put her, her well-being ahead of Evelyn's. And I like that we saw that process. It's hard to forgive somebody that you feel has done you dirty a couple times. So I like that it was a more realistic take on that. Kyle, in terms of the main plot of this episode, it turns out that the convoy has a way for John Doe and Quiet to finish their delivery. Obviously, they are starting to run very, very, very low on time. But they have figured out that there is a route through Agent Stone's defenses for them to get through to New San Francisco to finish that delivery so they can ultimately get to where they're going. And it ends up leading to a really, really cool reveal with their new vehicle and a really fun ending this episode that sets up a great beginning to episode 10.
Yes, I think that Agent Stone has been, one of the perfect picks for the villain for this series. And, you know, I really like that Thomas Hayden Church has kept up this energy the entire fucking season, especially in the series season finale. Damn, I've been saying series finale this whole time because I never knew if we were getting a season 2, so it's hard to like make that switch now.
I
Um,
feel that.
but yeah, this whole time he's been so fucking menacing, and it's so worth it. Like I just man, the next episode is so good. It's everything that I'm hoping season 2 is gonna be. But before we finish out episode 9, there was something really big that you mentioned earlier, Rusty, that the car Quiet and John Doe build called Roadkill is actually the car that John Doe drives in the game. which
Yes, a
is
massive
it's a really
reveal.
cool nod, and it looks like that'll be the his car moving forward, because obviously Evelyn is gone, and there is no recovering or rebuilding. Um, but that's kind of cool how they had to make that sacrifice in order to bring in Roadkill. I love the in your face references in this show about the game. Like they just don't hold back.
Yeah, and that's it's a great segue into leading into episode 10 because the beginning of episode 10 was what I think a lot of people expected this whole season to be like. And it's this awesome, full on, vehicular battle between Agent Stone and his men versus the convoy, John Doe and Quiet, and Sweet Tooth, Stu, and Mike. And it's an awesome, awesome battle. So much so that I didn't realize just how quick the battle moved about. So when it ended 10 minutes into the episode, that kind of had me thinking that this episode was going to have a little bit more of a complicated ending, and we'll get there. But Kyle, just a phenomenal start to this episode. Again, the kind of combat I thought we would see all season long, but it was certainly worth the wait.
It definitely was. I think that if they keep this up for season two, it will be so much better. Like this season obviously had to do a lot of character building, but man, for the first 10 minutes of this episode, the nonstop just carnage, everybody shooting at each other. Sweet Tooth has missiles coming out of his fucking the giant clown head's eyes, and also at the very end of the last episode, I forgot to mention, Stu pours gasoline on Sweet Tooth's head and then sets him on fire for that classic Sweet Tooth look from the games. Again, another in your face reference that's
Yeah.
not subtle whatsoever, but I absolutely love it. It was just madness, complete carnage, and that's what I've been waiting for this whole fucking season because holy shit, it was so cool. Now, there were some pretty intense moments. Like obviously when Agent Stone has had enough and he decides to shoot the florist right in her neck, and man, that does not go over well at all. I can't remember her name. What was her name from the convoy?
I can't remember her name whatsoever.
Damn it, dude.
That's It has been a while. It has been about a week and a half since I've watched
Yeah.
these episodes. The
Oh
names
man, her
have kind of slipped
girlfriend,
me, but
dude.
I know.
She flips out
They were
about
drawing a
it.
loss too.
I'm so sorry. I can't remember her name for some reason, but that moment shocked me. I was like, oh, I thought she was dead because a convoy just crashes and blows up, and I was like, oh shit, they're gone. They are dead. But it
Yeah,
turns out that wasn't the case.
yeah. I loved that they also in these moments or in this intense battle they found moments to make jokes. I felt like when it was appropriate. So like Sweet Tooth, for example, when he drives up alongside John Doe and Quiet at one point, and I think they're kissing or some point or doing something along that line, and he makes this joke about they finally got together. That kind of joke. It's like you see in every TV show you got characters that everybody ships for some reason, for one reason or another, and it's kind of like that feeling as well. It's a little corny, cheesy moment, but it's a lot of fun. And I like that they found moments to still be funny, even in an intense battle. So the battle ends up wrapping up. The heroes win. Again, it's about 10 minutes into the episode. And Matt, can we come up on a very, very full circle moment with Quiet where Agent Stone is on his knees in front of her and she gives him the option of it can be fast or it can be slow. And she leaves the gun kind of at his feet and gives him the option. And we hear a gunshot, but I'm not sure that we ever see a body. So that's the one thing that's like, I feel like that could be a surprise in season 2 is Agent Stone possibly still being alive.
Yeah, that's the rule of TV. If there's no body, do not believe that they are dead for a second. Especially, I think they kind of let that up in the air because I don't think the showrunners knew that they were going to be getting a second season. So I think that they just wanted to leave that up in the air. So they're basically there is a good finale for Agent Stone. There's some closure. So if they weren't getting a second season, he's dead. The gunshot, we're going to take it that he's dead. If they get one, then they can absolutely do anything that they want and bring him back. And they say that he did not shoot himself. Um, So that actually was very clever writing on their part. I just wanted to say just this whole section of this battlefield. This was incredible. This is what the show is. I was like watching when I was watching that scene. I was like, this is where the budget went. You could absolutely tell. um, and I like that everybody had a little part to play in it. I thought that everything was really well done. I love the fact that Agent Stone's police force are in these cars and they're marked as what was it? Were they marked? What was the word?
That is a Kyle question. I think if anything else, I'm not sure.
It was spray painted on each car. It was something like arrested. I don't know.
Oh
And I think that's how everybody like let their guards down. But then, after everything went down, and it turned out that Stone's police force were in those cars, and I was just loving this every single moment of it. I had a big smile on my face because this is what Twisted Metal is, and they nailed it perfectly with the car combat, and each car having like its own unique type of style of a combat, especially Sweet Tooth's iconic ice cream truck shooting the missiles out of the ice cream cone, like Kyle said. They really had me going. Like I was like, I want to see more of this in the future. This is what Twisted Metal is, and they did so good with it.
Absolutely. So, kind of hinted at it a little bit because I believe I told you guys this when I finished the show last week. And it was when I realized that the battle was over around the 10-minute mark of this episode and that there was still 24 minutes left. I was like, they finished that surprisingly quickly. And I feel like there's going to be more complicated matters with this whole new San Francisco thing. There's going to be more complicated matters than maybe we were anticipating originally. And the first thought that went through my head was maybe it's a little bit complicated, and maybe they have to do something extra to get quiet in as well. Maybe that has something to do with it. And lo and behold, boys, they get to New San Francisco gate, get to the front gate, and they allow John Doe in. But Quiet's membership as part of the community was never part of the deal. So Quiet and John Doe are once again forced to separate, and that, Kyle, leads to a very interesting time jump of, I believe, 5 months.
yes, this was probably the most shocking part of the episode was when they actually went through with it, because when they said that Quiet, wasn't going to be allowed in, I was like, oh, so this is what's going to keep him on the road. That's what John Doe's going to go with there. Holy shit, she shot him right in the chest. Just shoots him, and she gets in his car and leaves because she wanted him to stay. That was like, damn, that was brutal. But
Yeah.
it showed her dedication to keeping him safe. It showed, I think that full circle character arc of her, going from absolutely hating this guy to loving him so much that she would rather him be safe and her be out on the road than him come with her. And the time jump is, interesting because we see a kind of more relaxed John Doe, somebody who's been kind of living safe. He's let his guard down a bit because he hasn't been out on the road for quite some time. And there was a part where he meets this girl, right, and he starts to end up liking her. Well, they go on a couple of
Relatable.
dates. I can't remember her name.
It was actually the guard that meets them at the very
Yeah,
It
I was
beginning,
gonna
and
was.
say.
Yeah.
they make that joke because when they pull back up, she's like, you do not have all, you do not have, I think clearance to pass the gate, or you don't have the
Yeah.
authority to pass the gate. And she makes that joke of, oh, you don't recognize me without all the body armor on.
Yeah, yeah. It was cool because we were seeing him, really kind of get to live a real normal life until there's a scene right after where everybody's in the bar with Nev Campbell's character. Oh, I can't remember anybody's names.
Well, I
Um,
don't know. I don't know that a lot of these characters. I don't believe their names are necessarily as relevant. I know the ones with the convoy probably are, but I
yeah,
think that some of the normal citizens that we meet in New San Francisco, I don't believe their names are all that relevant.
yeah,
But before we talk about the really big reveal, because there's a massive reveal for why John Doe specifically was allowed into New San Francisco.
Mm.
Uh, let's talk about Quiet and where we find her after the time jump, Matt, because I think it's a really, really interesting spot that she is now in, where she is essentially robbing milkmen along their routes and is giving back to the people that need the resources that they're carrying more than New San Francisco does. And I like that. She's turned into almost that kind of Robin Hood role, and I kind of respect that.
Yeah, can I just add the fact that I like the fact that we finally figured out, found out like what it is that milkman deliver, and it is basically just food. Like I kind of expected it, but it was kind of just a big turnaround, especially when it was with the older lady. The big package that she wanted from John was ice cream. Like when she opened that thing and I saw the ice cream, I was like, you had this man go through like halfway across the country to get you an order of ice cream and they didn't even get it right. That's like real life, actually.
Yeah, for real.
and and I liked that. I really did like the take that they did with Quiet. Like it didn't really last that long because we're getting very close to the end of this episode. We're probably about 15 at this point. We're probably about 10, 15 minutes to go, and I like that there was like that moment that she had with one of the was that one of the what was that called the bell, what were they called?
I again, like you're asking the wrong people for that. Hey, maybe this
The Holy
episode,
Man.
the Holy Man.
The
If
Holy
you're a
Man.
big fan, if you're a
Yeah.
big fan of this show, and you're cringing every time we can't remember somebody's names, then forgive us.
We're cringing too.
Maybe you can laugh at this episode a little bit more. Trust me, I'm cringing thinking about the editing job on this episode right now. So don't worry at all. But trust me, we watched the show. We really like the show. We're excited for season 2, but it's for these two, it's been a lot longer since they've watched these episodes. I watched it last week and I'm having trouble remembering. So if that tells you anything, I hope it comes through that we still like the show. But yeah,
Yeah.
to build off your point, Matt, I think that they gave Quiet purpose after the time jump.
Exactly. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's the thing I think we're all a fan of.
Yeah. And I like the little interaction that she had with one of those holy man, where he had his gun to her, and then she just starts freaking out. He's like, he's basically like, "Do you need to talk?" And they just were eating like Vienna sausages or whatever, and he tells him a story about like, how he had attachment, and then he had a girlfriend that he lost, and I thought it was kind of an interesting parallel to the things how it was with Quiet and John with him, and what was I'm gonna say Sasha. That's I can remember or something. Um, but then it was like he completely just like turned around and then pulls a gun back out on her. And can I just also say that she has I love her. I love her new weapons, those little axes when she threw them at that guy on his his arms or whatever. The hatchet, yeah, I like that little aspect too. I like that John is basically going and living his life in New San Francisco, and everything seems perfect for him, and then you have Quiet, and she's just like she's in the apocalypse side of things, so obviously she's doing what she can to survive. And I also like the fact that she also became kind of a bit of a hero, because what she does with the milkmen's deliveries is she gives them to the outside people who have no food, who have no shelter, who have nothing. And I thought that was fantastic, because that is what Quiet would do if she was not, she didn't have anywhere to actually go or be, so she just kind of made her own journey, and I thought that was a great thing for her.
I think that Quiet's journey from episode 1 to now is sneakily one of my favorite aspects of this season of the show. I think that her journey from being somebody that's on the run with her brother, she's just scrapping and fighting to survive, to now she's scrapping and fighting to help other people survive. I like that. I like that we saw this long journey, and I like that it had that payoff. Now, Kyle, let's talk about the big reveal. Because obviously, the show is setting up for something. We just didn't know what. The big reveal is that not only has there always been a purpose to why John Doe was let into New San Francisco, as it turns out, he is actually originally from New San Francisco. It's where he and his family lived when he was young. And obviously he got separated from them in the accident, woke up with no memory, finds Evelyn, and everything goes from there. He is originally from New San Francisco, Kyle, and the point that they made, or the point that they had to hiring him all along, was for a tournament that is going to be Twisted Metal. And they want him to drive to represent them.
Yeah, that was a wild reveal. Considering some of the pictures that we saw put up on the board, like Bloody Mary, who I assumed was definitely dead after that scene at the pit stop where they got in that big brawl. Uh, but there were also a lot of characters that were shown that haven't been named or shown yet that are from the games. Because I looked it up because I don't know that much about the games. But I was like, I'm pretty sure those guys are from the game, so I looked it up, and it's pretty cool that they're gonna be bringing in more characters because I think that's really my only big complaint I have with the season as a whole was we only saw a handful of characters, and the most recognizable one would be Sweet Tooth. But there are a lot of other really recognizable characters from Twisted Metal, like Calypso and Axel, who I'd love to see come in. And I believe Axel is going to be coming in season 2 because you see his picture on the board. But when they revealed to John Doe that they've known who he was this whole time, pulled out those pictures and showed him, that had me on the edge of my seat, like, oh shit, okay, because we always knew something was up with Nev Campbell's character. We always could tell, she's doing this for a certain kind of reason. But man, can we talk about what the package was for a minute?
Yeah, yeah, that's quite interesting. So I will allow you to take the lead on that.
Oh man, this whole ordeal had to be done in a certain time frame, and she said it could not be a second late. Because apparently this package is extremely valuable. Well, the whole season they never tell you what it is until the very end of this episode. It's fucking ice cream.
Yep.
John Doe and Quiet went across the country to risk their lives and had to make it back in a certain time because the ice cream would melt if not, because it was in a container that kept it cool, but only for a certain amount of time. Oh my god, dude, that is so fucked up. The amount of shit these two people went through for some damn ice cream. And she was like, that was just the test. My god, what is season 2 gonna be like? It's gonna be brutal because, wow. I can't wait to see what the winner of the contest gets.
And
Oh
to
man.
take it a step further, we talk about characters being introduced. The last scene that we see from the season is Quiet runs into a new faction that we've not seen yet.
Yes.
And they meet a character that is revealed to be Dollface, who is asking about the whereabouts of John, meaning that she is in some way tied to his backstory. If she's related to him, if she might be his sister, we don't know yet. But it ends with that big that big reveal, that big character reveal. We find out about the tournament. We know that the preacher will be back. We know that Watts will be back. We know that Bloody Mary will be back. Quiet obviously is going to be back in some way, shape, or form. It sets up for a potentially crazy season 2. And Kyle, as I texted you, that just tells us that the entirety of the first season was all just really set up for the actual Twisted Metal tournament that is likely to take place for the entirety of season 2 at least. So, really, really good wrap to season 1 and a wrap to our review of it. I know that it wasn't necessarily as clean of a review series as our Last of Us season, or our Last of Us series, I should say, because to be quite honest, when Last of Us is only coming out one episode at a time, it's really easy for us to review one episode at a week because we can't binge it like Kyle did the first 5 hours that it was out. So I had a lot of fun watching this show. I'm excited for season 2. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. We're going to have to wait and see. Obviously, I think for a couple years, I think we're probably going to be getting season 2 around late 2025, I'd imagine, is when we'll get it. I think that's they're aiming for 2025 to be their release date for season 2. So we'll have to wait and see. We've got a lot to look forward to, though. Oh, you got something to add?
I don't know. I don't know if you saw it. I don't know if either of you saw it. But do you guys remember when during the car battle, Stu shoots Sweet Tooth in the eye, right? And him
Yes.
and Mike leave because in the games, Sweet Tooth
Yeah.
obviously only has
Yes, the
one
post
eye.
credit scene. Yes.
There was an after
Yeah,
credit
I wish I didn't watch
scene
that.
where Stu shows up. I mean, not Stu, where Sweet Tooth shows up because Mike and Stu are hiding out somewhere on some beach. They're roasting, marshmallows over a campfire or something, and Sweet Tooth shows up. I'm assuming he kills Mike because there's a lot of blood, and then he just drags Stu off with him. So I don't think Sweet Tooth has forgiven Stu for shooting him in the face, and that is definitely something we will see come back.
I think we're absolutely going to see a little bit of a heel turn for Sweet Tooth as well. I think Sweet Tooth, that we're going to see a little bit more of the villain Sweet Tooth, I think, in season 2. So, again, it's kind of crazy what they decided, the breadcrumbs they decided to leave us at the end of season 1. And I think we all figured they would be getting a season 2, and then Anthony Mackie confirmed it at the Trash Ass Game Awards that we would be getting a season 2. So it's, again, really exciting ending to season 1. Looking forward to season 2. That is going to wrap up this episode of Side Mission. Be sure to check us out on Twitter at Side Mission Pod. You can follow us as well on Facebook at Side Mission Podcast. For the boys, for Matt, for Kyle, I'm Rusty. Thanks for listening.